Hey guys, so I've got something kind of interesting to talk about. Every so often, these interesting research articles come out, and we've got an interesting one today on retinoid stability and degradation. And the interesting thing is, this article was put out on October of 2020, so it took somebody that's researching pharmacology and dermatology to kind of read this and come up with some ideas, because this article mentions several different retinoid products and how ineffective they are. And I want to especially thank Matt for mentioning this to me. I didn't realize that this had come out. So I'm always kind of searching around for new, interesting things to talk about. And this one is certainly one that's piqued my interest. And the main products in discussion are the Paula's Choice 1% retinol. That's the most expensive one out of all of these ones they tested, as well as the ordinary retinols, their retinol and squalane and their gram-active retinoid. And this study they tested, I believe, was 14 different retinoids and how they last. And the ones in this study that did the worst are Paula's Choice and the ordinary. And interesting, they tested 12 products. So they tested products from, and they don't specify which are which. They have them random. They probably can't reveal the brand's name, or they might get in trouble with that. So they did mention specific ingredients, so that's how this person was able to figure out which products they're talking about. So they tested 12 products from the ordinary, Paula's Choice, Revolution, Aphrodita, Eveline, Eucerin, Greenline, Lacarna, Lajibana, and L'Oreal. And they were anonymous, and they named them from F1 to F12. But you can do some cross-checking based on the active ingredients, the percentage of retinols they mention. And the interesting thing, the retinol 1% from the ordinary and squalane was identified in the article as F1. It had the fourth quickest retinol degradation rate of the 12 products, and only 30% of the original retinol amount was left after 6 months of opening, which I don't think they mention specific. A lot of brands mention discard after opening, 3 months after opening or something, period after opening. And I don't necessarily recall that the ordinary mentions that with this specific product, that, hey, you've got 6 months to use it and it's worthless. Although 6 months, it's pretty reasonable with an active ingredient like retinol, which we do know is prone to degrade, and especially with things like dropper bottles, which are open to air exposure. And the interesting fact that they noticed was the tested products started with 1.3% retinol instead of 1%, which makes me wonder if there's some quality control issues. So I guess if you're buying a brand new bottle of this, be cautious of that, because it's going to be about 30% stronger than you're expecting. And the company is actually aware of this. And the chief scientific officer admitted that their retinol should not be used 3 months after opening, because it's not good anymore. So anyway, so you got to hurry up and use it. 3 months isn't terrible. The Paula's Choice was identified as F4 based on the ingredients. Despite being the most expensive product they tested, it had the second quickest retinol degradation rate of the 12 products listed, as only 25% of the starting amount was left after 6 months after opening. Worse, even, the products start with only 54% of the declared retinol content, suggesting that retinol started degrading even before the opening of the product. And someone else even mentioned that they thought that this didn't even contain retinol. It used HPR retinoid, which is very weak and not studied a ton, and probably not nearly as effective as retinol. So that was even more of a red flag. And I've recommended people use this one, so I'm a little bit surprised, although this brand has been sold now since I tested it and used it myself. This brand has been bought and sold once or twice since then. I think Unilever is now the current owner of it, which is kind of a big flag that tells me don't trust any brand. Don't go by the brand. Trust your gut, what your gut tells you. I had great luck with this one, but I guess when I got into skincare, this was probably now 6-7 years ago. And now since then, the brand is run by different people with maybe different reputable, questionable reputations. I mean, Paula, I don't think Paula from Paula's Choice is really involved in this much anymore. I'm sure she gets some proceeds and does ads for them, but I mean, I tended to trust this brand as well as The Ordinary, and now with Estee Lauder being involved with The Ordinary, I don't trust them nearly as much as I used to. They're becoming a different brand from what they were, especially with the $25 launch of their eye serum. They're just a different brand than what they were. So, I mean, my initial trust for them and their reputation, at least it's a cheaper product. So, I mean, compared to this one, I think retails for $60. And this one retails around 15 or so. It'll probably be 30 by the time this video is aired. But anyway, just kidding, kind of. But this is the really expensive one. So it really leaves me, don't trust any brand. And I do think it's kind of interesting that some of the comments on here was like, that's why I don't trust some of these newer brands. I trust well-established brands like L'Oreal and Neutrogena and those brands. And then I kind of think, well, 6 months ago we were talking about benzene and all of Neutrogena's sunscreen. So I don't think that comment is, it just leads me to say, don't trust any brand. I mean, I just don't know if you can really trust any brand, because it seems like almost every brand has some scandal or something going on. And I really wish that there were more studies and things like this that were done on products. I mean, because I remember last year when we found out Herbivore's Bakuchiol serum has no Bakuchiol in it, but who knows? The average consumer doesn't have the resources to go test everything they're using. So it really makes me want to, back when all the sunscreen is coming out, I was kind of wanting to test more products and maybe like crowdfund it or something. And I still think about and come back to that, because it's too impossible for just like one person to afford to do it because it's really expensive. But when we crowdsource or crowdfund, maybe it makes it possible. So anyway, this just comes back, and I guess I just apologized to anyone I recommended to try this, because I guess if you don't finish it right away, I mean, and you know what, I know retinol is very sensitive, but I always thought their packaging was a little bit better, especially compared to like a dropper bottle, which every time you open it's exposed to air and degrades. But I guess if you're really interested in retinoids, the prescription stuff is studied for this. They have specific expiration dates. It's well researched compared to smaller brands. So, and I typically recommend starting out with retinol and working your way up, but maybe just go with straight to Altrino, which is very hydrating compared to most other retinoids I've used. This one is the one that works for me, my dry, sensitive skin. Maybe pick this one up, mix it with moisturizer instead of relying on all this other stuff. Because I think after, my insurance doesn't pay for any of it, so it's like $60 a bottle. But a tube like this, a little bit of it lasts me, this tube probably will last me 2 or 3 months. So it's a lot more affordable, and I know what's in it, and that's going to be effective compared to some of the other stuff out there. So anyway, it's fascinating. I'll link to the article and the information below. You learn something new every day, so I guess, I mean, we all expect things after you open them, they start to go bad, but you don't expect it to be fully degraded by the time you open it or a month later, especially when the bottles are so big. I mean, a one ounce tube of this stuff usually lasts 3 or 4 months if you're using it every other night. So by the second or third month, or even after you get it, perhaps Unilever is cutting some corners there. Don't really know. I'd love to be in the production room there and see what's going on after this article launches, and especially what's going on with The Ordinary and all that stuff. So anyway, interested hearing from you guys, your thoughts. This is interesting. So if you're using some retinols and you're recently purchased any of these, I guess I would probably email the company and send them this article and probably ask for a refund, because I think that's what these companies should be doing at this point. Especially when The Ordinary is aware of it and they haven't really done anything about it. So, and Unilever has to be aware of this too. I mean, they're a big brand. They have to know this, and they haven't done anything about it either. So anyway, I want to see, does this say anything else after opening it? It doesn't say anything about, hey, you've got 1 month to use this. A lot of brands will mention that. So maybe it's on the website. So anyway, interested in hearing your thoughts on it. Leave a comment. Love hearing from you guys, and stay tuned for more tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.